This hour is brought to you by Africa Muslims Agency. South Africa's Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, has issued a diplomatic démarche to the United States ambassador after controversial remarks about the South African judiciary and the Kill the Boer ruling. Parliament's Justice Committee has welcomed the move, saying the comments undermine the country's courts and sovereignty. To help us unpack what this means diplomatically and politically, we're joined by international relations expert Dr. Oscar van Heerden from the University of Johannesburg. Good morning, Dr. Oscar van Heerden, and thank you for joining us on South Africa this morning.
Good morning, Aisha, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much. So just to begin, let's take it a step back, right? What exactly is a démarche, and how serious is it in diplomatic terms?
It's quite a serious thing. A demarche is basically when you are called in as an ambassador by the host government to give a tongue lashing to be reprimanded, if you like, in terms of diplomatic speak. You come onto the red carpet and you are given a tongue lashing, usually to be told not to do certain things, to refrain from certain things. In this case, Ambassador Bozal went to a particular gathering in the Western Cape in Hermanus and said all manner of things that was not in keeping with being a diplomat representing the government of the United States. And for that reason, the department decided to call him in and give him a formal warning to please refrain from such behavior and statements.
Parliament says his remarks undermine the independence of South Africa's courts. Why is that such a sensitive issue diplomatically?
Well, it's a sensitive issue because, Ambassador Bozal was trying to give the impression, I'm not sure if he's not aware, that he is in a country that is a constitutional democracy, where the three arms of state is well established: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judiciary. And that we live in a constitutional democracy where we listen to our courts and court rulings. They might not do that in the United States. A number of former presidents of the US have ignored rulings from their Supreme Courts. You would recall, Aisha, under the Obama administration, the Supreme Court ruled that the Guantanamo Bay a prison camp in Cuba should be closed down and the prisoners should be transferred to mainland the United States of America. Obama ignored them. He never did it, even though that was one of his campaign pledges when he campaigned to be president. Similarly, with the Trump administration, President Trump has ignored rulings from the Supreme Court on a number of issues about immigration, on ICE agents, on tariffs, and so on and so forth. And for Ambassador Bozal to come to South Africa and think that we are running a banana republic here and say he doesn't care what our courts say, it's what America wants, I think he's finding himself in a very, very different situation. He needs to reflect very deeply about where he is and what he agreed to come and be an ambassador for.
Do you think, given the way the United States responded to South Africa's G20 presidency and the way that handover or lack of handover went, and given more recent events with President Trump's government, is there sort of a hostility towards South Africa and its general foreign policy and the way that it does things from the US, would you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down, Aisha, but the truth of the matter is that some of the biggest funders for Trump's presidency campaign are Zionists in the United States. Miriam Edelstein, we know her and her late husband, pro-Zionists, they are pro-Israel. And they have given the biggest contribution to Trump's presidential ambitions and campaign. Miriam, in fact, has also indicated now that if Trump should seek a third term, which of course is not permitted as per the Constitution of the United States, she would make another $250 million available. We see how pro-Israel Donald Trump has been over the last few months, a year and a half of his presidency thus far, even now in terms of the war that's taking place in Iran at the behest of the war criminal Netanyahu. So, so we see a pattern. There's pressure on Trump to deal with South Africa because South Africa took a principled decision to take Israel to the International Court of Justice on the charge of genocide that is still unfolding in Gaza and increasingly also in the West Bank. So that's one. Two, they don't like the fact that South Africa is part of the BRICS formation, which is talking about de-dollarization, moving away from the dominance of the US dollar. They don't like the fact that we are friends with Iran and Russia and China, and so on and so forth. So there's a host of reasons that they don't agree with. And then they come up with this narrative and this malarkey
Mm.
about our domestic laws around expropriation of land, about the genocide on white South Africans, and challenging our so-called racist legislations around triple BE and the likes. Sovereignty is very important in any nation state. I think South Africa also is saying that we are a sovereign country, and it is not the business of the ambassador or a foreign government to get involved in our domestic affairs, our domestic laws, and our choice in foreign policy.
No, absolutely, Doc. And I think, that point of maintaining that sovereignty is so important, and that a demarche, which, like you phrase it, is a reprimand, a slap on the wrist of sorts, is important here, not just symbolically, but also, you know, the way that it fits into South Africa kind of standing up for itself and saying we won't just tolerate being spoken to or being treated a certain way just because we're viewed as lesser than by a supposedly more powerful government for these reasons. And how then do we move forward constructively from this? I mean, the ambassador's only been here for, what is it, 2 months now? How does a demarche impact a way forward for him in practical terms?
Yeah, look, I mean, Aisha, I've sort of said it's akin to our labor relations laws in South Africa, if you like. When you have a problem with a particular employee, you first give a verbal warning. That's the demarche, in the case of Ambassador Bazal. Then afterwards, if he continues with his behavior, if the government is so inclined and doesn't want to take the step of expelling him, they can give him a written warning. And after the written warning, if it still persists and he's not listening, then we find ourselves in the arena where not long ago we had to expel a diplomat from the embassy of Israel and
Mm.
said he is a persona non grata and he needs to leave. We are not there yet with Ambassador Bazal. I think a rap on the knuckles is the first step. And the South African government, let's be clear, had ample ammunition to say to Ambassador Bazal, you need to pack your bags and go. But they chose not to do that, I suspect, because they are still wanting to mend relations and tension that is there between South Africa and Washington. It is the number one economy. It's the largest economy in the world. We do want to have trading partners, but we are not going to do trade with anyone that wants to bully us, that wants to threaten us, which is another thing that Ambassador Bozal did. He phrased it, his remarks in such a way as to suggest that, there's 250 companies, more than 600 companies, American companies in South Africa, 250,000 employees. And if we don't toe the line and if we don't do things the way he and his government wants, then that might come under threat. I mean, it was a direct threat to the South African government. And I don't think that's how we do business. I think the Americans have also cottoned on to a simple fact, which is that South Africa has diversified its trade portfolio, just like it has diversified and has a mixed energy plan. It's not over-reliant on coal, it's not over-reliant on solar, and so on and so forth. So it's the same with trade. We've diversified our trade portfolio. We have good trade agreements with the European Union. We have excellent trade agreements with China and India, and so on and so forth. And as you know, recently, the president and the DTI and Steenhuisen and others, cabinet ministers, went to also sign free trade agreements with Indonesia, with Vietnam, and Malaysia. So, it's actually, there is a percentage of trade that we do with the United States. We want to, of course, keep that percentage going, but we are not going to do it under duress and be told what to do, because then we simply need to look for other markets. And we've seen in the citrus industry, for example, how quickly that turnaround can be. They were very heavily dependent on the US market. They were sending oranges to the US market. With the threatening of AGOA and the tariffs, they are now selling it to Indonesia and China and Saudi Arabia, because there are markets. So I think that the simple demand, or request, I should say, from the Department of International Relations and Cooperation and from the presidency, from where I'm sitting, is that let's treat ourselves as adults, let's be respectful, let's do things with dignity, and let's not threaten, cajole, and blackmail and think we'll get away with it.
Dr. Oscar van Heerden, let's take a quick ad break and then we'll come back and talk some more. We'll be right back.
Across Sudan, starvation is tightening its grip. With rising food prices and widespread malnutrition, 8.7 million people are now facing emergency or famine-level hunger. As the conflict intensifies and aid routes narrow, families in Sudan are running out of options and time. The Al Imdad Foundation is delivering life-saving humanitarian aid to those most at risk. Stand with Sudan. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
With Ashraful Aid this Ramadan, your zakat changes lives. It feeds families facing hunger, restores dignity to those in need, and brings hope where it is needed most. From food relief to essential support, your zakah reaches communities with care, transparency, and impact. Give with confidence, give with trust. Make your zakah count this Ramadan. Give your zakah to Ashraful Aid and help change lives today.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Use the black seed, for indeed it is a cure for every disease except death." This Ramadan, honor that guidance. Tip Black Seed supports your blood sugar during fasting, boosts immunity, sustains your energy from suhoor to iftar. Available at leading pharmacies. Tip Black Seed, your golden drop every day.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
This Ramadan, please consider donating to the Islamic Dawah movement. For over 45 years, IREM has built over 80 masjids and distributed more than 160,000 Qurans in 8 local languages. IREM has installed over 250 boreholes and water wells. Over 1,000 children are fed daily, building strong Muslim communities in disadvantaged areas.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
If you've just joined us, welcome back. We're chatting with Dr. Oscar van Heerden, International Relations Expert at the University of Johannesburg. And just before the break, Doc, we were speaking about how South Africa won't be bullied by the USA, right? And how there are we've seen examples in the past year of when when tariffs were imposed and we needed to redirect exports, we were able to do that without too much difficulty. I want to come back to just talking about the demarche specifically, and I know earlier you mentioned the example of the ICJ case, which was really something trailblazing that South Africa did, and maybe we can chat a bit about how that sent a message, what kind of message that sent to the international community. And if we talk about that messaging and what it says about us as South Africans, when we bring it specifically to this example, what can we say this message around the démarche and issuing it says about South Africa's willingness to defend its constitutional order and judiciary, even when dealing with arguably the most powerful economy?
Yeah, this is not the first time that we've had this dance, Aisha. People might not remember, but just soon after our democratic dispensation in 1994, President Mandela and the South African government was involved in very sensitive negotiations between the Zaire, the now Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Congo. There were wars and conflict, and Mandela was facilitating that peace talks. Bush Sr. at the time in the United States, the president at the time, wanted to instruct Mandela about how things should pan out, what should happen. And Mandela very courteously said to him, "I'm the captain of my ship. I will decide what to do and how to do it, and we don't need to take direction from you." A similar incident happened under the Mbeki administration when Bush Jr. and Tony Blair from the United Kingdom wanted to insist and impose their will on the South African government and President Mbeki to want to put boots on the ground to invade Zimbabwe. And President Mbeki says, "Not a chance. Over my dead body, it's not going to happen. We're not going to be party to and facilitate such nonsense." And now again, we see it with President Ramaphosa, where the US government yet again want to blackmail, cajole, and threaten us. And I want to say that there's been a consistency on the part of South Africa and the South African government, DIRCO and the presidency, to hold the line. We are not anyone's brainchild. We are not anyone's lapdog. We are an independent country and needs to be respected as such. And I think that this is what President Ramaphosa is doing. He had the courtesy to accept the invitation to President Trump. And then President Trump tried to embarrass him in the Oval Office by spreading false narratives, showing false pictures that had nothing to do with South Africa in part. And so on and so forth. So, it's a racist behavior. It's racist that they think they can tell us what to do and how to do it, who should be our friends, which laws we should or should not have. It's racist. We know what Trump thinks of African countries. In his first term, he was very explicit in telling us what he thinks of dark Africa. Bozell is an extension of that. We know, for example, that he was a racist conservative when he was back in the 80s in the United States. He hated the ANC. He thought it was a terrorist organization and that the ANC was promoting communism. But now he is the ambassador to South Africa. He needs to have a rethink about how he's going to engage with this government and with its people. Being condescending, telling us that we must ignore our courts and so on is not the right way to do it.
As we close off, I want to expand slightly a little, Doc, and I want to ask you, in the context of what's going on right now in the world with the war in the Middle East and the heightened tensions breaking out on a much broader scale, how does South Africa find itself placed in all of this, and how does it find itself navigating its relationships with its diplomatic partners in the context of this?
When you have a bully in school who is bullying everyone, the only way to stand up against that bully is to form a group. You must have friends. And when you stand together as a group, that's when you can take on the bully. And so the same happens here. The United States of America is a bully. And countries need to get together in the formations of BRICS, of the African Union. Multilateralism is the answer to a bully. And so South Africa must continue being in multilateral fora, continue to be in BRICS. It's not a perfect grouping. There's challenges there, but at least there's some common understanding of how to move forward with dignity, with respect, and so on and so forth. So I think South Africa is on the right track. South Africa operates within international law, even when the United States want to pretend that they don't care about international law. Just like Israel, they don't care about international law. Might is right, is what Marco Rubio tells us. If we don't like what you're doing, we'll come and bomb the hell out of you. We'll sanction you. We'll take punitive action. So unfortunately, Aisha, now that the United States and Israel is losing the war in Iran, it is not going according to plan, they're going to be very angry. They're going to be very frustrated. And they're going to take it out on everyone else, including South Africa. So we have not seen the end of the punitive action. I suspect that soon President Trump and Marco Rubio, especially after this demarche, is going to say that they are going to institute sanctions on South Africa, sanctioning our banks, sanctioning individual politicians, political parties. And I dare say it's not going to stop there. They are going to also sanction other individuals, academics, journalists, pundits, and so on. So it's going to get far worse in the weeks and months to come. And I just hope that the South African government, like the Iranians, have thought through these things and have plans in place to actually respond and be ready for such particular punitive actions.
Yeah, absolutely. A very interesting time in history that we're living through at the moment, Doc. And as you say, a lot to still come.
No, absolutely. The unfortunate part is, we are a generation, Aisha, where we're now literally seeing the unraveling and falling of an empire. We were way too young when it happened to the British Empire. We certainly were not there with regards to the Ottomans and the Romans and so forth, but we are now seeing a United States empire falling apart, and the last kicks of that dying horse is that they are going to go down fighting.
And yet at the same time, an opportunity for multilateralism to really come to the fore, and for developing countries to really show the might that they hold, perhaps.
Absolutely. South Africa must hold the line. Multilateralism is the answer. BRICS, a reformed United Nations, and so on and so forth, is the answer. And I think South Africa is on the right track and on the right side of history.
Dr. Oscar van Heerden, International Relations expert at UJ. Thank you so much for your valued insights this morning and giving us context to a very important unfolding global matter.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Doc. All the best. And that brings us to the end of today's show, and also to the end of me hosting the show. It's been a pleasure being with you over the past 3 days. I have really enjoyed it, and I want to just emphasize again that the views of the guests that we have on the show are not reflective of my own personal or Salam Media's views. That said, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've really enjoyed it, and hope to be back on the airwaves again with you soon. We'll go for a quick ad break, and after the ad break, Hafiz Imran Chunara from Africa Muslims Agency will speak about the pursuit of happiness. From me, Aisha Dari Patel, I'm signing off. All the best. Enjoy the remainder of your Ramadan, and remember me in your du'as, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.